serious. Individuals of Reddit who have experienced crazy sightings such as aliens, etc. What stories can you share? I've told this story a few times. When I was much younger, my grandparents lived in a big house about an hour away from our house. Their house belonged to an old doctor who made some significant development in medical science. I don't really remember. I think there were some tragic deaths associated with that house. I was never told much about them. Basically, saw multiple ghosts. Or at least what I remember to be ghosts. I was never really scared of them because they never seemed too threatening, so I never mentioned it until a few years after my grandparents moved houses. One day when I was older I told my mom about them. She asked me which ones I saw. But before I could list them, she told me the ghosts she saw growing up in that house. The exact same ones I did. I consider that enough proof. What did the ghosts look like? Kind of like people dressed in old-fashioned clothes. But faded somehow. It's difficult to explain. And I was young so it could all be in my head. I consider it an interesting story. Not definitive proof that ghosts are real. I moved into a new place around 15 and kept hearing scratching noises and rustling outside. I always assumed it was animals. One year we had to put up some defense on the window. Don't remember why. And my father said the grass and bushes around my window were like how a carpet is after you step on it. And he said that the tracks belonged to either a human or something with human feet. This was years after the first time I heard the rustling and scratching. To know that someone was outside my window still terrifies me. Something with human feet. Well, that's a benign way to say some scary shit. I live next to a railway crossing. And when I was around 10 they installed floodlights on the crossing and they shone directly into my window so I could always see silhouettes of the trees or something very clearly like a puppet show. One night I had a sleepover with 2 friends. At some point during the night a figure appeared crouching in my window. My friends and I were terrified. In the point of context there is nothing outside my window for anyone to stand on. The figure also had elongated body parts. The part I remember most was a pointy head. It stayed crouched in the window for a while and we hid under the covers and peeped out occasionally. Sometime later we saw it jump to the side. I put this down to a dream. It couldn't have been real. The floodlight eventually got turned so it didn't face my window. My friends and I grew up and grew apart. At the end of secondary school I was getting people to sign my yearbook and one of the girls asked me if I remembered the thing in my window. I was shocked. I thought it was a dream. So I asked the other girl and she also remembered it. That night I told my dad about it. He told me the floodlights have never faced my window. When I went to stay with my uncle for the weekend, we took his dog for a walk 3 times a day, once in the morning, once before lunch and one at like 10 or 11 PM. So he lives in a rural area of England. Like lots of farms. Tight country lanes, and at night it gets very dark, so we come along to a small fence. He lifts the dog over and I just hop over as I'm pretty tall. We start walking along and end up in an orchard. As it gets darker, I turn my phone light on and look around. I feel as if something is watching me but could feel it was quite close. I look to left and down the aisles of trees I see something very tall and humanoid walk past as if it was following me and my uncle. I turn to him and say, "Did you see that too?" I point to the trees and he replied with, "Kind of, yeah." We carry on walking and get to near the end. He sees the trees sway as I do. The humanoid being was watching us. It must have been at least 8 feet tall. It was staring back at us. And as the dog started barking in its direction, the being walked off after the dog stopped barking. My partner and I see a 5'8"-ish humanoid figure on the semi-regular. Always at night. Like a patch of even darker darkness in the dark. We've taken to calling it Mark and telling it to fuck off. Imagine dying in your house. Becoming a ghost. People live in your house. Try to scare them out. And getting told to fuck off. My family and I saw a woman staring into a window once. It was late night, past midnight. We live in a remote little town called Sawton City. There are many houses here that halted construction midway. This was one of those houses. The woman was wearing a long white dress. And had long straight black hair. Very stereotypical of a horror movie. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. and my parents do not talk about it to this day. They are religious people and I think this really freaked them out. I was in my garden one night when I was around 21 or 22. I look up and see a blue shining dot in the sky doing small circular motions faster and faster, and it's kind of wobbling and circling, then it zooms off leaving a blue streak behind it. Up until that point I was always under the impression UFO sightings were BS, but now about 10 years later I'm convinced I saw something. Okay, this reminds me of when I was 16. I was spending the night at my friend's house down about 2 miles from my house, as I often did. I was addicted to World of Warcraft, so every night I would get up at around 3 to 4 am and ride my bike home and go play WoW. One night I woke up like normal, snuck out of the house, grabbed my bike and rode home. About halfway there a massive object flashes into view and stops right over me and our town like it came out of hyperspace from the direction behind me. It was completely silent. When I say massive I mean bigger than our town by a lot. Could barely see end to end. It was black but almost oily, looking like rainbow colors on the edges that seemed to change like oil does. I stopped, dropped my bike, and stared at it. I'm not sure how long I stood there, but it seemed like 30 seconds. Then, like hyperspace in Star Wars, it took off in an instant, continuing on the direction it was heading before it stopped. Again, no sound. It was gone in a second. I sat there for 5 minutes not sure what to do, then continued home to play WoW. This happened in Western Oregon. I sadly don't remember the exact date. If anyone has seen this, please let me know. Another time me and my buddy were outside my house at night in my driveway smoking a cigarette, around the same age. We look and see these 5 green lights in a circle flashing in different sequences like it was communicating a message. Can't tell how far away it was, but it seemed far, and the circumference of the lights were about the size of the moon. It went on for a few minutes and then stopped. Never saw anything like that again. Both these nights I don't remember there being a moon out, but I could be mistaken. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit After Dark. Have a good night.